afternoon, everyone. Maybe we can start because we only have 15 minutes, so we don't have enough, time to do another work. So, thanks very much for attending this session on the strengthening regional collaboration and partnership in environmental health in Asia Pacific region. And at the very beginning, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodian of the land on which we might meet today, and pay my respects to the elders and past and present, as well as to the emerging leaders. And I also extend that respect to original and tourist island people here today. So maybe some people don't know me. Maybe I'm Yu Mingguo, professor of global environmental health and biostatistics at Monash University Climate Air Quality Research Unit. I'm very pleased to moderate this session, and I'm looking forward to learn from the presentations and discussions from the panel members. Today we are facing a global challenge, which is climate change. That requires coordinated action at the regional level. Particularly, the Asian Pacific region is vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. For example, the rising sea levels, extreme weathers, wildfire smoke, and some other environmental extremes. So we need to pay attention to them. So this session will discuss how to strengthen the regional collaboration and partnerships in environmental health in the Asia Pacific region. And I want to express my acknowledgement to the Nanjing Hanwei Public Health Institute for their support for this session. And also, we are very lucky. Today, we have 6 global experts in the environmental and climate health to give their presentations and discussion in this session. So these 6 experts are Professor Tom Zhu from Peking University, Professor Alistair Woodward from University of Auckland, and Professor Yang Kaixia from Nanjing Medical University, and Professor Haidong Kan from Fudan University, and Professor Atasako Ikada from Hokkaido University, and Dr. Yan Yan from Nanjing Hanwei Public Research Institute. So, because it's only 50 minutes, so each person will give only 6 minutes presentation, and at the end, there will be 10 to 12 minutes for the questions and the discussion. So I think the first speakers will be Professor Tom Zhu. His presentation is strengthening regional collaboration on air pollution control and climate change mitigation to maximize health benefit. Maybe I don't give too much, introduction. You just search the app, and there are many information. And Tom is one of the best scientists in the area for air pollution and human health. Okay, warmly welcome, Professor Tom. Yes.
Thank you much. Thank you, Yumin, and also thank the organizer for getting me here to present some concept I think is very important for the global health. We all know that air pollution is very important in the sense of human health, cause about 7 million premature deaths each year, and also ranked 4th as a risk factor for the mortality. Now, there's more increasing emerging evidence that the climate change can affect human health from different perspectives, heat waves and vector-borne disease. Now we see increasingly, actually, the air pollution as a traditional pollutant to be controlled, but is worsened by climate change, like the wildfire, it causing severe air pollution, and also dust storm because of the drought and climate change leading to this one. So we know that globally, if we see low and middle income countries actually suffer the most from all this global air pollution, and especially when we have other issues like wildfires, for example, in South America, Africa, and also Southeast Asia, heavy contribution from the wildfire leading to the high PM2.5 burden, and also trigger to the human health disease and mortality. There's some study from our group and a collaborator. We found that, for example, women and especially children or reproduction actually a serious effect by PM2.5, one of the most important air pollutants, and leading to the low birth weight or preterm births. And among all this PM2.5, wildfire has strong association with child mortality and also in the low and middle income countries. So the globally is heterogeneity in the distribution of PM2.5, leading to the also heterogeneity in the health outcome calls for international collaboration because we see mostly all this burden of all the harmful effect on human health happening in those regions which mostly with low and middle income. So in brief, we see that air pollution and the climate change are major challenging for the global human health. And this globally, this unequal or heterogeneity in the sense calls for collaboration, and also the research and the government effort are also very different in the sense in the response to this challenge. So regional collaboration is a very important one. And especially when we look at the health effect from air pollution and climate change, they have a lot of common, very common characters because it came from a similar source like fossil fuel combustion, which changed the chemical composition in the atmosphere, and also now we put more attention to the indoor air. And there's a global effort for the carbon neutrality, but we also need to have this global effort to reduce both carbon emission, air pollutant emission, with the aim to protect human health. Within WMO, we have established a working group we call ARCH, Air Pollution, Climate Change, and Health Effect Nexus working group. This group is trying to help to establish close collaboration between WMO and the WHO. And from the global perspective, and back in the regional, we also lead a seminar, this collaboration. Thank you.
Wave at me when I get to 5 minutes. 5 minutes. No, thank you for the chance to talk, and it's lovely to be here and to see so many familiar faces, including other members of the panel. So the question is, why is collaboration in environmental health important? And I think there are two sides to the research coin, if we're thinking about, particularly about the contribution of environmental health researchers. One is trying to understand the problem, and the second aspect is thinking about solutions. And actually, in my 5 minutes, I'd just like to make the argument. Jonathan, is that all right? Can you hear me now? Doesn't go any higher. This is built for dwarves. Yes, so sorry, my argument is just that if we're looking for opportunities for fruitful collaboration, I think we should look in the solution space. You know, as environmental health researchers, we tend to think about a pathway from science to guidelines to standards to implementation. And we tend to put more effort into the first part of that pathway than to what comes towards the end. I'm thinking of Ilona Kickbush's presentation just before lunch. And I do think that it really bears on us as environmental health specialists to think about those very difficult and thorny questions of implementation, co-design, acceptance, implementation. It's about 10 years ago that a number of us in this room took part in a project organized by the Asia Pacific Rim Universities Network looking at air pollution in the Asia Pacific region. I don't know if you remember that. We looked at 8 countries, we looked at particulate pollution in particular, and the conclusion was that what was really missing in the literature was a careful look at strategy. You know, no doubt that there's lots of pollution, no doubt that it causes serious health effects, no doubt that there is a relatively common and standard approach to monitoring and reporting on air quality. All those things are relatively well defined. What is still a big challenge, what was a big challenge at that time, and I suspect still is what we do with that information. And what can we do to learn from each other in terms of how best to deal with the problem? Low emission zones in cities that are dominated by cars. Some cities have them, some don't. Just as an example of a response on the air quality front. Climate, looking at co-benefits. There are a zillion studies modelling mainly the benefits that arise both to health and to climate from common, sensible interventions, but very little done by way of looking at what happens in practice and where can we go to see good models of policies that achieve benefits both on the climate and health front. C40, the network of cities, is supporting some fascinating work. An example of collaboration that's been very effective in my own area is looking at what promotes active transport in car-dominated cities and the arrival of the e-bike, the electric bike. How can that be promoted? In New Zealand, we are very interested to know what's happening in Canberra with their introduction of e-bike libraries, which is a fascinating example of an intervention that seems to be very effective in terms of promoting the use of electric bikes. My 5 minutes worth is, sure, it's really important to collaborate in terms of ensuring that we do the best science, in terms of identifying the problem. And I must acknowledge Yu Ming's work. Your group is just a superpower, Yu Ming, in terms of bringing people together to ensure that we have the best possible evidence in order to characterize the problem. But for discussion, what can we do better in terms of finding effective ways of dealing with these problems and seeking solutions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next panel is Professor Yan Kai-Xia from Nanjing Medical University.
Okay. Yep. I'm Yan Kai-Xia from Nanjing Medical University. It's my pleasure to be here to give a presentation about the micro-nanoplastics exposure emerging as a threat to human health. As we know that the chemicals, environmental health, global environmental issue became the very increasing prominent with chemicals released into the environment. And recent years, we want to set up the environmental exposure assessment detection platform for comprehensive, accurate, and consistent assessment of both the external and internal environmental exposures. So we use the different machines and methods to detect the internal exposure levels. This is the category of the chemicals we can detect it. And also, we want to identify the effects of the chemicals. So we set up the toxicity screening systems helps to identify target exposure with a higher potential risk of human health. We use the in vitro and in vivo models and screening test complex to get all the different kinds of chemicals detection and also explore the mechanism. And we also integrate the risk assessment procedure, including the exposure assessment, toxicity screening, and the effect assessment and mechanism exploration. And during this period, we found that the integrated system serves as the foundation of our better understanding of different kinds of environmental chemicals, but especially in particles. Let me think the particles compared to other kinds of environmental chemicals. Micro nano particles, we call MNP, raise more attention to their potential toxicity due to their additional physical characteristics, not only like the PM2.5, black carbon, or some nanoparticles. The microplastics is special. And among numerous particles, micro nanoparticles originate from manufacture and plastic degradation, leading to widespread exposure in the environment. Because their size is different, each person can expose to a very high number of nano or macro particles every year. So compared to other chemicals, what are the challenges in the MNP studies? So we want to set up some detection from the qualitative to quantitative. This is now we can see from the big one to the small one, and the different size of plastic particles requires various detection techniques. That means if you use different kinds of machines and methods and technicians, you can detect the different results. So select the methods carefully. And also, we know that for the big ones, we can use the FTM-IR. And for the smaller one, you can use confocal-Raman microscope. And even the smaller one, you can use the SERS and the AFM-Raman. But if you want to see the in-suit exposure, for example, if we want to see whether the MNPs in the human tissues, you must use some new method, for example, HAADF stream with the EDXS and the ELS. We can use this method to detect how many different kinds of MNPs in human samples. And during this period, because the MNP is everywhere, so we must pay more attention to their background. So we use the quality control and particle detection, this high quality control for the method. Now we just reported in recent years for the microplastics in the thrombus and microplastic in the 12 different kinds of body fluids, and this result is very not very is simple, and the sample size is not very high, but there is a more very high concern about the MNP's exposure, not only in public community, but also in scientific community. So we get a lot of citation and reports here. And during this period, we also set up from the quantitative detection to the quantitative detection. That means we not only want to know the exact numbers, but also we want to know the details and the different kinds of the numbers of different size. And so for the micro nanoplastic seems everywhere, but are they harmful? So that's the question. The third question is the potential health risk of MNP is overestimated or objectively. We know that microplastics are found both in different environmental media and human tissues. And also the size determines the distribution of potential target organ and toxic of microplastics. That means different size means different effects. So it's very difficult to treat with the animals or the in vitro studies with the same or special design size. And we also see some reports there. The nanoscaled plastic are reviewed toxicity in vitro or in vivo for different systems. And we also see this year the first long-term MNP exposure studies in New England. It's about MMPs elevates the risk of cardiovascular disease in humans. But this kind of epidemiologic studies is just still in their infancy. That means we need more collaboration and more resource or more data to support these results. And also, we all know that the experimental size we used here in the experiment is often smaller than the reported size in humans. Now, the micrometer sized microplastic are the majority in humans. And so, if we want to use if we will use the new method for detection of nanoplastics, maybe we can find more and more nanoplastics in the human beings and also in different kinds of tissues. So we don't know that. And also, if we think the dosage of the experiment, we found that the experiment doses often surpass the actual environmental levels. So it's a little different. It's necessary to develop a more scientifically rigorous, cost-effective, and comprehensive strategy. Not each group do each experiment. We need help each other, and we need to get the collection or the data or the information together to get more results. And so last one is our track is a targeted risk assessment for environmental chemicals. We just set up a framework for this work, and we just initiate a small research based on the track strategy to do the MNP exposure and the plant center. And we can see, we can use our own results and together with the literature, published literature, and get the exact score and get the evidence here. And then the score here is just near the moderate risk for the MMPs and placenta toxicity. If you compare to some pesticide, you can see atrazine and pyridine is more lighter or moderate than the two pesticides. So if that means the MMP here in this topic may be not as high as we thought. So for the perspectives in the future, the challenge of physical chemicals characterization of the MMPs and the future and more epidemiologic evidence and some lower models will help us to research this problem. And then widespread extents doesn't imply high risk. For the MMP, it's really a long way and largely unknown and unexplored. So we need to help each other and get the results together. Thank you.
Our next talent is Professor Han Yonghan from Fudan University.
Can I? How to open my slides? Sorry for waste of the time. So previous speaker have talked about air pollution, climate, and environmental chemicals. My topic is a little bit different. I'm going to speak about social environment and going to discuss the importance of collaboration in this issue. And here is a map. Here's a picture about determinants of health and well-being. And we can see that, of course, air pollution, climate affects human health. But in addition, in this part, the part in red is the social environment, but this is an overlooked part in our public health research. So I'm going to give a small example about how important is social environment. It's about culture. It's about culture. In our Asia Pacific region, we have a lot of different cultures. For example, in China, we have a very special culture about number 4. In Chinese, number 4 in pronunciation is very similar to days, 死亡, 死. So in Chinese, 4 is a bad number, which means unlucky for people. So does the date related 4 is associated with adverse health outcome? So in some studies, people did find some temporal association between the date with 4 and adverse cardiovascular event. So culture is important. Social environment is important. So this is an example about the importance of social environment. So let's move a little bit to stock market. Stock market involves many people. A large number of people in the world are involved in the stock market. And for example, in the US, more than half of the population have some form of investment in the stock market. So what about China? This is some kind of real-world pictures from Chinese stock market, and we can see a lot of Chinese old men are very, very interested in doing business in a company. So let's take a look at a very special period. This is about like 15 years ago, and in just 2 to 3 years, the Chinese stock market increased about 6 times, then decreased from the starting point. So it affects everybody's life. So how kind of this kind of stock market volatility on public health? And we did a study about to link the stock market index with daily cardiovascular days, and we find very, very interesting finding about for both the increase of stock market and decrease of stock market are related with cardiovascular days. Then we did a whole country analysis. How about whole China? We used the China National Days Registry to link stock market with mortality in China, and this is the major stock market index change during the past 6 years. And here is health outcome. Acute MI, stroke, and suicide. And in China, we did find a very clear association between some kind of cardiovascular events, suicide with stock market. But in different countries, we have different culture, we have different health system. In some countries, for example, Taiwan has universal health care, and in some countries do not have. So how about other countries? And we did a global analysis using the MCC data, which Yu Mingguo is one of the initiators of the big collaboration network. And we find in some countries like the US, we did find very clear association between stock market and cardiovascular days. But for some countries, with no association. So I think social environment is also a very important determinant of public health, of our health in this region. We need more and more collaboration in this field, and not only for air pollution and climate change, but also collaboration is important for social environment. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Atasuno Aikada from University of Japan, which is called Keio University from Japan.
Ready? Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm Atsuki Ikeda from Hokkaido University, and I'd like to talk about, again, the hazardous chemical. And okay. So I think all of you know about the increasing of chemical usage worldwide, and especially after World War II, and more synthetic chemicals produced. And of course, those chemicals make our life very easy and comfortable. and safe. But on the other hand, there are many chemicals have a hazardous, and according to the database, more than 5,000 substances are registered in hazardous substance data bank, and many of them has been released to the environment, and we all exposed to those chemicals, and many of them has some like endocrine disrupting properties. We have done the birth cohort in Hokkaido, and we recruited the pregnant women, more than 2,000 pregnant women in prenatal period, and we keep following up the children and what kind of diseases will be happen associated with the prenatal or postnatal chemical exposures. And so I'm not talk a deep result, but we found that pregnant women are all exposed to certain kind of chemicals, including like dioxins and PCBs and chlorinated pesticide or PFAS, phthalates, and bisphenols. And children at birth were decreasing birth size and disrupting thyroid and reproductive hormones, and chemical exposure may associate with the adipocytokine levels, as well as up or down regulate of DNA methylations. And during infancy, chemicals may delay the neurodevelopment and increasing asthma and allergic symptoms or increasing the infections. And when children become school-age children, the children are also exposed to such chemicals, and those associate with the increasing of ADHD or neurodevelopment, or increased asthma and allergic symptoms, or increased infectious diseases. And of course, for pre-pubertal children, also increase of asthma and allergic symptoms, or like Th2 biomarkers, increase of oxidative stress biomarkers. Sorry. So the challenges here is that we all know that children are the most vulnerable, and how to protect children from those hazardous chemicals, and especially including Japan, the declining of the birth rate. And of course, the infertility is not only the chemicals, but maybe the part of them can be associated with the chemical exposures. And another challenge is like plastic waste and microplastic, just like Yankai mentioned. And those kind of chemical plastic pollution is not only about the environment, but also health issues. Recently, there are quite a lot of people aware of the usage of the plastic, and it's very happy to see that we are all avoid the usage of plastic cups here, and plastic cups not replaced with the papers, because paper also have like PFAS, but it's very happy to see that all stainless steel, which might be more safe, but still we are all exposed to those chemicals. And also electric waste problem. So we all use these kind of devices, and once it gets to the waste, it's contain a lot of heavy metals and hazardous chemicals. And the issue is that, like country in Japan, we export these kind of waste to the low and middle income countries. So we are not aware of those, but it will be delivered to like Vietnam and other countries. So we export those kind of wastes. And also hazardous chemicals can be leaked from the dump site. So if we just burrow these chemicals in a mountainside, after the rains, those kind of chemicals can be leached and all exposed to the drinking water and also ground, so the people might be exposed. So those kind of issues also happen in Japan, and the PFAS exposure is a big issue here, big issue as well. So to tackle those kind of chemicals, for the birth cohort, we do some of the research collaboration called BICA. The Nankai University is also part of it, and like 33 cohort studies from 16 countries collaborate each other. And Also, we do some research collaboration for e-waste survey in Vietnam. As I mentioned, those kind of electric devices can be exported to those countries. So we all need to responsible to what we are using and what we are wasting. And also, the other challenges might be the education. It's very good to have an early exposure to those young students, like how the importance of the chemicals or the environment. Especially, I'm now teaching at the nursing students, but many of them more aware of the clinical side, but not much interest in environment. So I think it's very important to expose them to aware of the importance of the environment, and all the health and diseases come from the environment as well, not only the clinical setting. So those are something I want to point out, and thank you very much.
Our last presentation is Dr. Yan Yan from Nanjing Hanwei Public Health Research Institute. The last one.
Honored guests, experts, scholars, and colleagues, good day. The topic of my presentation is the catalytic role of innovative research institutions in advancing public health innovation, Nanjing Medical University Hanwei Institution. Nanjing Medical University Hanwei Public Health Research Institute is a new research and development institution jointly established by Nanjing Municipal Government, Nanjing Medical University, and the Social Capital in Jiangsu Province. The institute has assembled a team of top-notch scientific elites led by academicians from the Science and Technology Strategic Committee. This elite team includes top talents in the fields of public health and artificial intelligence, dedicated to promoting innovation and development in the public health industry and safeguarding human health. So our first innovation is the application of disease warning large mode technology. The disease monitoring and warning platform is based on a large disease warning model, which alerts and predicts urban disease risks. The infectious disease simulation system uses the ABM simulation technology to bridge the warehouse model and simulate the risk of infectious disease transmission. It has been applied in Jiangsu Province, Nanjing City, and so on. The disease monitoring and early warning platform introduce environmental parameters into the infectious disease early warning model. The factors cover over than 20 types of data, including weather, air, disease, drugs, and so on. Our second innovation is optimizing chronic disease prevention models. So based on urban characteristics and explore new characters models for the management of chronic disease. Construct a digital chronic disease system and establish a multi-level linkage model from provincial to community levels, including provincial, municipal, district, community, and home. Establish a comprehensive chronic disease health management system, integrating home care, community hospitals, district, municipal, and provincial CDC. Our third innovation involves the application of big data in various published health scanners. Public health encompass a wide range of scanners, and big data technology can significantly improve the quality and efficiency of regulator work. Utilizing big data technology to improve the efficiency of health supervision work and prevent the occurrence of risk events. Our fourth innovation is the application of AI in target-based drug design. Based on the fashion innovation of artificial intelligence and bioinformatics, leveraging known or newly discovered drug targets and employing efficient predictive AI. So we explore new molecular of this disease. So conduct drug screen and design, study the association patterns between disease and drugs, and achieve efficient prediction of the effects. So this research can development process of the new drugs and vaccines. Our team targeted the new cancer maker TIP2 and employed artificial intelligence technology to screen drugs for cancer treatment. Of the 4 drugs screened, and the drugs can prove one to be highly effective. I'm deeply grateful for your attention and support. So I'm looking forward to further in-depth discussions with you. Thank you.
Maybe we can have 10 minutes or 20 minutes discussion, maybe for the presenters, so you can see on that. So if there is any questions, so ask that. Is there any questions?
I'll just project. My question is for Dr. Yonkai. In looking at the nanoplastics in particular, have you looked only at the plastics, or have you looked at the binding to any of the other chemicals that have been discussed, like the endocrine disruptors and pesticides that you talked about? Or do you have the capacity to do that?
Hi, wait. Okay, so very quick answer. Sometimes we just separate our design for the NMP studies and other chemicals because the storage tube and all the background is totally different. So we must separate our samples into different ways to get the further research. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Again, I don't think this is. Oh, yes, it is working now. What is the role, do you think, for international frameworks or conventions in environmental health to improve control? I'm thinking particularly, in public health, the framework for tobacco control has been well taken up. Is there similar initiatives in environmental health?
Yes, no, good point. And I think the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control was a a very important platform for people working in environmental health, looking, for example, at the smoke-free environments, comparing countries and trying to understand why some countries were able to move more quickly than others. And something similar, I think, is happening with climate change on the basis of the framework, convention on climate change. The work of the IPCC, is an international effort, and it includes a very strong environmental health flavour, obviously, and provides a platform for people to sort of combine their experience and share their expertise. So I do think, because so many environmental problems have a global element to them, that that international frameworks and agreements like the tobacco one and the climate one and the ozone one, they are important sort of hubs for collaboration.
I just want to add in a few points. Yes, there has been discussion regarding air pollution. Usually, the question comes which international organization to initiate this one, whether it's from UNEP, WHO, or WMO. So I think it is very necessary to have this international convention for the environmental health.
First, I want to congratulate you, Yuming, for hosting this incredibly important topic on Earth Day. Today being Earth Day, this is the most important session of the whole meeting. I just wanted to go back and ask the nanoparticles question. This is a new area, and I was scared to death when you were showing that these particles are showing up in blood clots. And I'm just wondering what your sense right now, our current understanding of true exposure is. It seems like, there's nanoparticles now in sunscreen, and what do you think do you think we know like a tiny bit, or how soon will we get a handle on the real risk assessment of nanoparticles?
Actually, to my opinion, MMP just maybe is very high. Exposure is everywhere, but to our knowledge, we don't know the exact toxicities for all the effects. But we don't overestimate the toxic effects of MMPs, because there are many traditional chemicals in our bodies. So I don't think it's much higher effects than other chemicals. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eddie, a PhD student from Monash University, and thank you all for your fascinating sharing. And I have a specific question for Professor Asuko. I really appreciate your efforts in birth outcome studies, and I would like to know if you have looked into the impacts of exposure before pregnancy or the exposure during different trimesters of pregnancy. And if you have, could you please simply share your insights of the underlying mechanisms? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a very difficult question to answer. So far, we have measured only one trimester, so it's very difficult to separate the effect. But of course, the children have all vulnerable time points, so some of the chemical, and also it depends on the outcomes. I think like the birth size, like tobacco smoke, it's more effect on the later pregnancy, but some of them might be early pregnancy is more important. So I agree that it's very important to find the critical period, and other than that, maybe we don't have to worry so much about that.
Hi, this is a question for Professor Xia. I'm not a novice in this. I'm very much a novice in this space, but my question is just related to PLAs and biomass-based plastics and whether or not degradation or accumulation in the ecosystem is different for petrochemical versus non-petrochemical-based plastics, if there's any difference.
I'm really sorry. I cannot get the answer very exactly, but to my opinion, we both use the best structure and Roman for the double check the results. And if you want to see the actually health effects, we must use some in vivo or in vitro study to get the deeper conclusions and associations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have delivered a very successful session. Thank you very much. Thank you for your coming and for the panel. So maybe we can take a photo here.